Hi everyone, I'm Rick Rose, also known as Rick Rose on Scratch.
Hi, I'm Eric, also known as Speak Visually on Scratch.
And welcome to the
Scratch Video Update!
Yay, that was so awesome.
Hey everyone, welcome again to the Scratch Video Update. We're joining you in Paris, France. We took a hop over from Scratch Conference in Amsterdam to Paris to film here.
Well, if you're wondering what the Scratch Conference is, it's an opportunity for teachers, developers, and researchers to come together to talk about Scratch and share different resources and ideas. And
by the way, that's Notre Dame behind
it.
That's the Notre Dame Cathedral in the center of Paris.
Yeah, and so we're going to show you some clips of our reflections from the experience, starting with our Love It.
The Love It section. Oh my gosh, the Love It section from Scratch Conference.
One of the keynotes that was offered was done by Linda Lucas, who's an author. She created this amazing children's book that she's going to tell you about, and she wanted to create a book to introduce young kids to computational culture and thinking in a friendly and fun way.
Cool.
So here's Linda.
Let's check it out.
My name is Linda Lucas. I'm a children's book author and illustrator, and I write stories about computers and the computational thinking world. And this is my first book. It's about a little girl called Ruby and her best friend, the computer. And here you can see Ruby in her own little room, and can you recognize who is on Ruby's wall? But Ruby is actually a really special little girl, because when her dad tells her that she needs to dress up for school, she does dress up, but she leaves her pajamas on because dad didn't specifically tell her to take the pajamas off. And when Ruby is told that, oh, your room is such a mess, you need to clean up all your toys, they are everywhere, she does clean up the toys, but she leaves her pens and papers on the floor because pens and papers are not really toys. And in the same way, when you give instructions to a computer, you need to give them in the right order, in the right sequence, be very specific with the names, and yeah, that way you'll be able to instruct also Ruby properly.
Very, very cool. Okay, so I think one of my love-its from the conference, we had what was called a poster session, which is essentially people working on cool things, set up a booth, and they sort of talked about what it is they're doing with Scratch. And so a lot of things stuck out, but maybe just to mention a couple. One was a device in which it could track when you were blinking, and a young person, his mom is a doctor and works with someone who can't actually move their limbs or speak, and so using this device, when she blinked, the Scratch project would move on a letter, and she could actually communicate via blinking through a Scratch project, which I thought was like a really inspiring use of Scratch in the real world, and so that made me think a lot. And I have to say, I was really excited. So Scratch on tablets is like a thing that's being worked on. And so some of the developers on the Scratch team showed off the early stage demo of Scratch on tablets. And it is very cool. There's still more work that needs to be done, but it was there. And then one final thing is, so Scratch is, you're always using it on the computer screen. But someone said, oh, how cool would it be if you actually like took blocks in real life and put them together and ran like a Scratch project. So this one guy had a device where you can put Scratch blocks on this sort of panel, and then it would make this horse spin, and so you can program like with using your hands, which was really cool.
Cool. So now let's move on to our next session, things to try.
Things to try, all the way in France.
And so one thing to try is, so we ran into Eric Rosenbaum, who's the co-creator of Makey Makey, and he had a new project to share called Beetle Blocks. And Eric is going to show us a quick clip of what that looks like.
Hi, I'm Eric Rosenbaum. I'm a former member of the Scratch team. You may know me as Eric R. on Scratch, also co-inventor of the Makey Makey. But now I'm going to show you my project Beetle Blocks, which is like Scratch for 3D printing. You can write some code which generates a 3D shape, which you can then print out. So I'll show you how that works a little bit. So over here, there's a little beetle. The beetle we can make move around using the blocks. So I click on this move block, the beetle takes a step forward. The rotate block makes it turn. And then I can make it put a little cube down at each step. And then I can use the repeat block to make it put those cubes around a ring. So what else can you do? This project makes a hexagon and then rotates the hexagon and scales it. So it makes it bigger as it rotates around. Pretty cool shape. This is a Beetle Blocks snail, and here is a little beetle. So you can try it out at beetleblocks.com. We're still working on it. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Cool. And so I think my things to try, you know, I'm always talking about the Scratch Design Studios, and so we do have a new Scratch Design Studio. It's around the theme of custom blocks, so make a block. And if you're not familiar with Make a Block, it's just you can actually define your own custom block in Scratch. And if you're not familiar with custom blocks, don't worry, because the Scratch Design Studio curators have created 2 projects that will help you learn more about custom blocks. So I'd encourage you all to check it out.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, one other thing I'd add about Eric's project is that it's still in the very, very early stages, so it might be a little glitchy.
Oh, Beetle Blocks?
Yeah,
okay,
Beetle
it's in the
Blocks,
early
yeah.
stages. It's very cool, though.
We'll share a link. Okay, so now we'll move on to message from the Scratch team.
Yes.
We're drumming. Okay.
Oh, drumming. Oh, yeah, sorry.
So one of the keynotes that Emrez delivered, also known as Mitchell Resnick, we thought it was a great message to the community, and we thought we'd share it with you. And he wanted to talk about why coding and why Scratch. And he talked about 3 ideas to think about of why we code. And one was your voice, expressing yourself. Another was thinking and how the ways that coding can help you think in creative ways. And finally, identity and how you can see yourself as a creator and see the ways that you can shape the world. And we thought that was a beautiful message to share with everybody else. So I think as a final thing...
Yeah, and as a final thing, so in the spirit of voice, we actually walked around the Scratch Conference, which is very international, and we wanted to hear from the participants in the Scratch Conference if there were 3 words in which you can describe Scratch, how would you define Scratch? And so check out, we got about 6 or 7 people to say what they thought Scratch was.
Yeah, and they had a really hard time, but I guess anybody else would.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll end with that, and we'll see you in a month.
All right,
Scratch
bye.
on.
Scratch on.
Bye.
3 words that I think of when I think of Scratch are programming, creativity, and fun.
Gemeinsam spielerisch lernen.
没有失败。
Creativity, freedom, and teamwork.
地球の家族
Plaisir, jouer, créer, intelligence.
Scratch ha canviat la meva manera d'ensenyar altres assignatures.
Es hat mein Leben total verändert.
Divertimento, creatività e